There are moments when everything suddenly goes quiet, and it hits harder than you expect. A woman who used to give you her time, laugh at your messages, and stay on the phone late into the night talking about nothing at all suddenly pulls back. The energy changes. The texts stop coming in the same way, the calls disappear, and when you reach out, her replies feel distant, short, or delayed. Naturally, your mind starts racing. You question yourself. You replay conversations. You wonder if you messed up, if she lost interest, or if this is some kind of test. That uncertainty can feel heavy, almost overwhelming. And this is exactly the point where most men lose control. Instead of pausing, they react emotionally and start chasing harder, thinking effort will fix what silence created. What usually follows is a spiral of overcompensation. You send more messages than usual, hoping one of them lands the right way.
You call more often, trying to break the silence. You pour your thoughts into long texts, explaining yourself, trying to reconnect, sometimes even pleading for her attention. But instead of bringing her closer, it pushes her further away. The harder you try, the more distant she becomes. This is where most men misunderstand the situation completely. When a woman creates space, your reaction becomes the deciding factor. It determines whether she feels drawn back to you or whether she continues pulling away until you're completely out of her world. This is not about effort. It's about how you handle the shift in energy. To understand this properly, you have to look beneath the surface. Women don't usually withdraw randomly. There's almost always an internal reason behind that change in behavior. It could be emotional, psychological, or even subconscious. One of the most common reasons is that she's observing you more than engaging with you. In many cases, this distance becomes a way of seeing how you respond under pressure. She wants to feel your emotional stability, not through what you say, but through how you act when things are uncertain. This is where many men fail without realizing it. They think consistency means chasing harder, when in reality, strength is shown through restraint, patience, and control. When a woman has genuine feelings, she may sometimes step back just a little, not necessarily to play games, but to observe. She wants to see what you're made of when things aren't easy. Will you stay grounded, or will you fall apart the moment her attention shifts? This isn't always something she plans consciously, but it's part of how attraction naturally works. Stability draws her in, not neediness. In other cases, she might start losing excitement because everything feels too easy or too predictable. If you're always available, always reacting instantly, she may begin to question your sense of self-worth. And if you respond to her distance by chasing harder, you only confirm that your attention revolves entirely around her, which slowly lowers how she perceives you. Sometimes, though, it has nothing to do with losing interest. She could be dealing with her own emotions, stress, or something that affected her more deeply than she's showing. In those moments, distance becomes her way of processing everything internally. If you ignore that need for space and keep pushing for attention, it can come across as self-centered rather than caring. Then there's the uncomfortable truth that she might be evaluating her options or comparing how she feels about you with other possibilities. It's not pleasant to think about, but it happens. And in that situation, your behavior becomes your strongest statement. How you carry yourself during her silence can either elevate your presence in her eyes or make you fade out completely without you even realizing it. A lot of men fall into the same trap when they don't understand what's really going on. They start seeking reassurance through more effort, thinking that explaining themselves, expressing more emotion, or increasing their attention will fix the situation. But attraction doesn't respond to pressure or constant validation. It responds to emotional experience. When she pulls back and you respond with urgency and neediness, What she sees isn't love, it's insecurity. It signals that you rely on her attention to feel stable, and that weakens how she views you. Respect begins to slip, and once that happens, attraction usually follows. The reality is simple, even if it's uncomfortable. The moment she senses that you can't handle distance, she starts seeing you differently. And here's the part most men don't expect, because it goes against their instincts. The most powerful thing you can do when she distances herself isn't to chase, explain, or try to win her back with more effort. It's to step back as well, not out of anger or ego, but from a place of control. You give her the space she's already asking for while staying centered in your own life. No overreactions, no emotional outbursts, no attempts to force connection. This shift changes everything because it shows that your world doesn't collapse without her constant presence, and that quiet confidence is what can bring her curiosity and attention back. When she starts pulling away and acting distant, the most powerful move you can make is to step back and do absolutely nothing. Not out of bitterness, not to punish her, and definitely not to play games, but from a place of calm control. Silence, when it comes from confidence, speaks louder than any message you could send. It shows that your emotional state isn't controlled by her behavior. It shows that you respect both yourself and her space. You're not reacting impulsively, you're choosing composure. And that alone changes how she sees you. Instead of appearing desperate or dependent, you come across as grounded and self-assured. That quiet restraint sends a clear message that you're not afraid of losing her. And that kind of energy is far more powerful than constant pursuit. What's interesting is how this shift affects her perception. When you stop chasing and remain steady, it creates a sense of curiosity in her mind. She starts questioning the situation. If you're not reacting the way she expected, it disrupts the pattern. She may begin to wonder why you're so calm, why you're not reaching out, and whether she misjudged your level of independence. That uncertainty can actually draw her attention back toward you. It makes her rethink your value because now you appear like someone who has control over his emotions and his life. And whether she admits it or not, that kind of strength stands out. It's not about manipulation. It's about showing that your life continues with or without her constant presence. There's a simple example that makes this clear. A man named David met someone he genuinely liked, and at the beginning, everything felt effortless. They talked every day, shared long conversations, and built a strong connection. Then suddenly, her behavior changed. She became distant, stopped initiating, and barely responded. David reacted the way most people do at first. He tried to fix it by reaching out more, sending emotional messages asking if he had done something wrong. But instead of improving things, it only pushed her further away. Eventually, he made a decision. He stopped chasing. He stopped trying to force communication and redirected his focus toward himself, his routine, his goals, and his social life. As time passed, his energy shifted completely. He wasn't waiting around anymore, and he wasn't trying to pull her back in. He became more centered and self-focused. Then, after a few weeks, she reached out again with a casual message, almost as if nothing had happened. The dynamic had changed. She expected him to keep pursuing her, but when he didn't, it altered how she saw him. His silence wasn't weakness, it was strength. It showed that he had the ability to let go if needed, and that's what made her curious again. When you handle distance this way, one of two outcomes usually follows. Either she returns with renewed interest or she fades away completely. And in both cases, you maintain your self-respect and emotional balance. When you choose silence instead of chasing, something shifts in how she sees you. Her curiosity starts to build, and with it, a renewed sense of respect. She begins to remember the version of you that wasn't constantly seeking her attention. And often, that's what brings her back. Not your words, not your effort, but your absence. Because silence carries a weight that begging never can. But there's also another possibility. She may not come back at all. And if that happens, then the truth is simple. She was never truly aligned with you in the first place. What matters is that you don't lose yourself in the process. You keep your dignity intact, your emotions in check, and your life moving forward. And in doing that, you create space for someone who actually values you without needing to be chased. The deeper reality behind all of this is something most people don't want to accept. Attraction isn't built on constant reassurance or emotional dependence. It's built on stability, self-control, and the ability to remain steady when things feel uncertain. When a man can handle silence without falling apart, it signals strength in a way words never could. That's what naturally draws someone back in. It's not about pretending not to care. It's about genuinely having a life and identity that doesn't collapse when one person pulls away. So the next time you find yourself being ignored, resist the urge to react emotionally. Don't flutter with messages, don't try to explain yourself endlessly, and don't chase after validation. Instead, step back, give space, and bring your focus back to your own growth and direction. At its core, this situation isn't just about her, it's about you. Her distance reflects something deeper, showing whether you operate from insecurity or from self-respect. Most men respond impulsively and lose their position without even realizing it. But the one who understands what's really happening knows that restraint is power. Sometimes the strongest move isn't action, it's patience. When you stop running after someone, you allow them to feel your absence. When you stay composed, your silence becomes louder than any explanation. And when you value yourself enough to let go if needed, you become someone who leaves a lasting impression. So if she pulls away, don't panic or react out of fear. Stay centered, stay quiet, and stay strong.
That's how you come out on top, no matter the outcome. If this perspective gave you something to think about, make sure to subscribe for more content on relationships, psychology, and personal growth.